Can you imagine what the world might look like if all Christians were truly one? Might be frightening to some people, but it doesn't have to be. Can you imagine for one instant what this country might look like if all the Christians in it were truly one? There's a thought exercise for you. What would the world, what would this country look like if all the Christians in it were truly one? Well, the existence of Fox News and MSNBC in the same country, in the same city, maybe even in the same building, attests to the fact that different people will have very different visions as to what that will look like and what that ought to look like. Fact is, as polarized as we are, we can't begin to form a coherent, consistent vision as to what that might look like. Nevertheless, this morning's passage should give us pause as we ponder the reality of how fractured and divided we are. And as we imagine a world or even a country of Christians at one, Jesus' words also give us something upon which to ground our imagining, not to mention providing what ought to be a sense of urgency. Jesus is saying that the salvation of the world begins with Christians being one. As you, Father, are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us. Or as an alternative translation has it, may they also be one in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. So that the world may believe that you have sent me. Are we concerned about the outright atheism and generally assumed, if unstated, godlessness that's rampant in our society today? Well, this, Jesus is saying, is what will bring the world to believe that there is a God and that Jesus was sent by God and specifically and physically represents God. I in them and you in me, that they may become completely one, so that the world may know that you have sent me. That's it. Jesus' last word to his disciples, the ones gathered around him right there at the Last Supper, and not only them, but all who come after them, all who, to use Jesus' own words, will believe in me through their word. And that includes us. This is Jesus' final prayer. May we not forget that this is first and foremost a prayer. Jesus is gathered with his most immediate, most faithful followers on this, his last night on earth, his last night physically on earth, pre-resurrection anyway. He is speaking to them, and he is speaking to God in a very public way, a way that they and eventually we can hear. He is not giving them their final marching orders. He is not ordering them to get out there and somehow become one right now and immediately manifest that oneness throughout the earth. No, at this Last Supper on his last night on earth, Jesus is praying to the one he knows intimately as Father, and he is praying to God above all to make his disciples and those who will come to believe in him through the testimony of his disciples one. At this point, he is not praying that they simply love one another. He's already done that in chapter 14. He's moved beyond that now. He's praying that we may be one. He is praying for his followers then and now that they be one as he and God are one. This isn't simply about love, however we might choose to define the term. And this is not simply about we in our little church and our little family, we in our little town just loving each other and the rest will take care of itself. It goes way beyond that. When we, all Christians, not just our denomination, not just our particular little small group, all Christians, when we are truly one as God and Jesus are one, then we won't have to evangelize anybody. We certainly won't have to proselytize. When that oneness happens, the world will know that there is a God and that God has sent Jesus. I don't have to say it. We, and by we I do not mean this church or any particular church, nor do I mean this denomination as opposed to any other, or for that matter, denominations in general. We, the church, the whole church, the worldwide church, we, the descendants of those who came to believe in Jesus through the word of those first disciples, we are so far from being anything remotely resembling one that it isn't funny. You don't need me to tell you that. So what do? The first thing we need to do is acknowledge precisely that. We are called to be one and we are not. Not yet. We have every reason to hope and believe that one day we will be, but not yet. What we must do is acknowledge that this is our call. Acknowledge how far we are from it, and work as much as we can toward its fulfillment. Work. What kind of work are we talking about here? First, the mind work of accepting and understanding that there are other Christians who come out in a very different place than we do because of their upbringing, their education, their life experiences, and so on. We need to get it that we are not better than they are, that we, no matter who we might be, are not necessarily better Christians than they are. And this might seem to be a contradiction, but it's not, we have to insist that they acknowledge the same about us, even if that seems to set our oneness back a decade or two. For there is simply not going to be any oneness until we all get this. If one side or faction or caucus or whatever is basically caving in order to attain some kind of oneness on its most deeply felt beliefs about what it means to be a Christ-like Christian people, what we have isn't really oneness. It's nothing more than a lightly papered over crack right down the middle. We have to start with the basic mind work of understanding that we are called to be one above all else and acknowledging that we're not there yet. A second kind of work we need to do is mission work, but it's a specifically Christian kind of mission work. It's the mission work of working with other Christians, even those who don't necessarily agree with us on some things or any things, other than the lordship of Jesus Christ. It doesn't have to be any specific kind of mission work, just mission work we agree needs to be done and upon which we can work together. Work that is focused somehow on being, doing, or saying that which, according to Jesus, proclaims our oneness with God. Work toward what the gospel shows to be the way of being human that puts us at one with God. What we are looking toward, what Jesus is calling us to, is a oneness that must encompass the world. It cannot simply be solely about us, our church, our circle, our family. As I said, we're not there yet, not even close. What we must do right here, right now, what must we do right here, right now, to bring us closer, even if just a little bit closer? Mind work, recognizing that this is our call and that we're not there yet. Mission work, finding ways to work side by side with other Christians who don't agree with us on much other than the lordship of Christ. Finally, prayer work. I listed this last, but perhaps it should have come first. Or perhaps it doesn't belong in a category by itself, but kind of hovers above and permeates everything associated with the other two. Whatever the case, our prayer work is based on the understanding that this, our passage for today, this 17th chapter in the Gospel of John, is not Jesus' marching orders to his disciples. He is not telling his disciples to just get out there and be one. This is Jesus' prayer. Jesus is praying for us. Jesus is asking God to do something for us that we simply cannot do for ourselves. As Jesus ends his ministry on earth with prayer, we need to begin our ministry in his name with prayer. Our prayer work begins with understanding that it is impossible for us to bring about this oneness through our own efforts and through our own goodwill. There ain't enough simple human goodwill in the world to bring us together. Jesus recognized that. We need to recognize it too. Making us one is God's work. God is already doing this work. All we can do ultimately is open ourselves to that work that God is already doing. It is God who will bring it to completion in God's own time. Amen. Let us pray.